Hi Kenya Updates Live people, how are you doing? What's been happening lately? We recently had the Blood Moon event, guys, and it was around the 6th or 7th of September. And so many things were happening. I believe the last video that we did, we were talking about what the Blood Moon means with Kikuyu mythology. There was a lady called Wairimo who explained it very well in Kikuyu, and I translated it for you guys. Because things can either be good or they can be bad with the Blood Moon, yeah? For example, the DRC Congo, that has been going through so many cycles of conflict and exploitation, so much political instability for decades and decades. From 1885 to 1960, that King Leopold of Belgium, yeah, he basically took over Congo and ran it like his own country. They were busy extracting rubber and ivory and committed horrific violence against 10 million people whose women, you saw pictures of women who were tied, hands behind their back, hands chopped off. I mean, that man was absolutely horrible. A horrible human being. An absolutely horrible human being, King Leopold of Belgium. Yeah? Then after independence, Belgium and other powers, they were keeping control of the Congo and the corporations during the Cold War politics period. Then in the 60s, which was around the time I was born, by the way, Congo's first elected Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, was assassinated in 1961. That was way before I was even born. But Patrice Lumumba, he was opposing the Western-backed interference of the Congo. So this gentleman called, not very gentle, Mobutu Sese Seko, then ruled Congo for 32 years. The poor Congolese people have had such a hard time. I know today we're talking about Kenya, but I'll tell you, we'll go back to Kenyan issues and politics later, but let's just talk about the Congo because they're our brothers and sisters and they're our neighbors as well. And of course, it's because of events linked to the Blood Moon and the violence that continues to be perpetuated against the Congolese, okay? So, supported by the Western countries, this guy, Mobutu Sese Seko, continued to enrich himself while the country fell into corruption and poverty. Mobutu Sese Seko was a horrible leader. He was literally, he was a gangster. Guy was a gangster. I have a friend actually who I went to school with at some point, and she was there in university with me in the US during the period of Mobutu Sese Seko. This gentleman would not allow women to wear miniskirts, which were kind of like in season during during that time. Many women were wearing miniskirts. Everybody had to wear clothes way below the knee. And there was just a lot of, suppression and silencing of the population during that period. Let's skip over to 30 years, after 32 years of his rule in the 90s and 2000s. During this period, there were multiple armies from Rwanda, Uganda, Angola, and Zimbabwe who fought inside Congo. So this Congo has not had a minute breathing space from 1885, 1960s, 1990s, 2000s. Now we have Rwanda, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe fighting within Congo over the power and over its vast mineral wealth and resources, and also the rubber and the timber. They forget to talk about the timber. So much timber removed, from that country. And we see that timber actually lining a lot of the buildings, the beautiful, what they call beautiful architecture of the West. You see a lot of wooden beams across a lot of buildings. A lot of those wooden beams came from the Congo. In addition to that, they were mining minerals such as coltan, diamonds, gold, and cobalt. Millions and millions of our African brothers and sisters not only died during slavery, during enslavement, when they were captured and taken across the seas to other countries, they also died in the Congo. Millions and millions of them. They died of hunger and war and disease. And the Congo is actually a country where early writings found people who were very, very organized, people who built beautiful structures. There was a video that I had done once earlier before talking about this. I'll probably have to talk about the Congo later because it's quite one big story on its own. So the Congo continues to remain unstable. It's plagued with instability around the Kivu area in the east, which is bordering with Rwanda. The Kivu area where the army groups, who some of them are backed by the neighboring Rwanda, they fight for control of the mines, and also and of course they are supported by a lot of countries from the Western countries, and because these mines are the ones that supply global tech industries. Okay, so what is the blood moon connection now with all of this? Recently we just had a lunar eclipse of the moon around the 7th or 8th of September of 2025. And it had a symbolic effect, and it had some symbolism and spiritual interpretations, which I explained during the last video. Which, according to the literature that we have researched, some Christian, Jewish, and African traditional interpretations link the blood moon to times of turmoil, war, and major change. And in African cosmology, the lunar eclipses are sometimes seen as warnings and transitions. I saw on TikTok, for example, people were asking, did you feel, the lady Wairimo asked, did anybody feel any effects of the blood moon? And many women were talking about getting into experiencing their menses again. Other people complained about their bodies hurting, feeling body pain and bone aches. Well, all that has not really been researched, but the fact is that apparently there is some spiritual connection to the blood moon. So what happened in the Congo on the night of the blood moon, around the time when the moon is 30% brighter than other times? There was a group of people that went mourning, okay, the death of a loved one, I believe, yeah, in North Kivu. And they were attacked by terrorists. These villages were attacked by people allied with democratic forces, a group affiliated with ISIS, who have already before killed dozens and burnt so many of their houses. They killed 60 villagers on that very night of the blood moon. And that is a very serious thing, because at the same time we heard about this gentleman called Charlie Kirk in the US, who was also brutally killed, okay, with a shotgun to his neck. So we want to ask ourselves, Charlie Kirk, I believe he's an activist. He was a well-known activist associated with the right wing. So there's so much brutality going on. Another 52 people in Congo had been killed earlier during the month of August with hoes and machetes. And this is how these people were killed, brutally, with hoes and machetes. So this lunar eclipse did not come with good news for many people. Many people lost their lives during this period. Now, let's fast forward now to what's been happening in Kenya. Recently, we actually lost a lawyer through a brutal attack again by border borders, which I believe I'll allow Susan to tell us about. But anyway, I want to welcome you, and I want to see if Susan has finally managed to join us and if everything is okay now. Happy to see you there, Susan.
Yeah.
So you can give us a little bit of an update of what's going on in Kenya, as you've heard me give a little backstory there of what's going on around the Congo and the US and other places. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention the fact that earlier than that, we saw the brutal attack on children in a Catholic church in the US. Yeah, and how 2 children were killed during that period. Yeah. Okay, so I switch off my mic and allow Susan now to introduce herself and also speak and talk to us.
Oh, okay. Hi. Can you hear me clearly? You can? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry, I had some challenges connecting. I had to change my device. The lighting on this device is not as good as the previous device. So anyway, like Maureen is saying, there are a lot of concerns globally as well as at home. Yeah, last week we were shocked to see, a Kenyan citizen, a lawyer, on his way home. He was shot. He was unalived. They say that the people, the news reports that the people who unalived him, the person who unalived him was on a motorcycle. Here we call them borders. And one story I heard was saying there were actually two motorcycles. So there was another one waiting for the person to escape. So there was a lot of traffic, or the traffic had slowed around the place where the attack was launched. There's CCTV cameras showing. They've sort of tried to trace his movements from his office to the place where he lost his life. And luckily we have quite a good CCTV network, so they were able to pick things like that up. And again, the concern is, who are these people on motorcycles? This is not the first attack of the same sort of style, modus operandi, that we are seeing here in Nairobi. A few months before that, there was an MP, same thing, motorcyclists, traffic jam, and he was in the back seat. His driver was not affected at all, and that was it. The news reports that there were 8 bullets that were shot at the late Matthew Chalo Bobu. I was listening to the pathologist's report. He was saying that the way the bullets hit him, there was not much chance of survival. So whoever did that act intended that he should not survive that particular assault. It's very concerning because the lawyers, the Law Society of Kenya, have gone out on the streets talking about safety at work. The Constitution entitles all citizens to the right of legal representation. So when people are at risk like that, it's going to cause issues with regard to whether or not lawyers feel protected enough by the Constitution, by the systems, to do their work and to do it effectively. Because by nature of the work lawyers do, they come into contact. Lawyers are not supposed to judge their clients. They're supposed to represent them using the law. And the Constitution says everybody is entitled to the protection of the law. And the work of a lawyer is to do their best, really, to present, to protect or to represent their client, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, as best they can. So when you have a situation where people are going to think twice about some of these things, it's going to affect the way the legal profession operates. So lawyers defend people who have been charged with criminal offenses, even violent offenses. They represent people who have been charged with white-collar crime, blue-collar crime, all of that. There are even civil cases, land cases, which can be very, very sort of emotional between families and cause a lot of strife, or even communities. They represent everybody. Everybody in this country is entitled to representation. So having a situation where a lawyer finds himself in a situation where he will not make it home that night, he or she will not make it home that night, is something of great concern. And we're not just talking about lawyers, we're talking about any profession which requires you to do your job. We know, for instance, doctors. If somebody goes to the hospital with a gunshot wound, there are rules as to how they should handle that. They have to call the police and stuff like that. But they might be dealing with people who are actually dangerous people. And a doctor cannot refuse to treat somebody because of the fact that they are a dangerous person, or they're a suspected criminal or something like that. A job of a doctor is to treat. And so when the professions and any career is affected by security, it means we need to take a deeper look into that type of situation. We know that the borders, there's been lots of noise about them. We should consider, who are the border riders? Who were the assailants? Were they actually border riders, or people who had hired the border rider, or had hired the border so as to remain obscure, to hide their true identity? But whichever way you look at it, you can say either the borders are being misused by people who have criminal intent, or by criminals themselves. We could also perhaps say that could be some, I'm not saying that this is actually the case, but this is conjecture because we don't have all the facts. The investigations are ongoing and all that. But there's also a possibility that the assailants were indeed border riders who were guns for hire. But I was listening to some videos online on YouTube suggesting, by a security expert, suggesting that the person who did the attack was not an amateur. So this is somebody who was a skilled gunman. As Maureen was saying, we've seen a lot of, a lot of sort of like reckless behavior from border borders. There's been some concern, even at the county levels. These groups of border riders, they constitute a major part. Their contribution to the transport system of any space is huge. It's huge. They are efficient. They move, they collect, they do messenger work, they do online shopping, taking things from A to B. The traffic in Nairobi and in the city is so bad that it's so time consuming. So they save us people a lot of time. They're also a cheap means of transport and a quick means of transport from point A to B. When you're in a rush, you don't have to, stand in a long queue in the traffic jam. They're able to go to right in the front of the queue. So they are actually a preferred means of transport by many Kenyans. So they are a crucial aspect of our component of our transport system. Unfortunately, they are associated with quite unruly behavior. In recent past, we've had them torching, assaults, property loss. For instance, recently 3 motor vehicles were set on fire, after an accident. So their responses to accidents also is very extreme. That's criminal behavior, setting the vehicles on fire. They've been engaged in petty and violent crimes. We have had reports where, the thief is riding pillion, and then there's a rider on the border, and the thief snatches the bag as they sweep past. I actually witnessed that some years ago outside a hospital, and this lady sadly had the money. She had money to go and pay. This was outside Avenue Hospital in Nairobi. She had her bag, she had her car keys and everything, and her bag was snatched, and she had money in that bag. She was going to see a patient, and so she lost her car keys and whatever else was in her bag, the money, whatever, she lost it all. So she had to send home for a set of spare keys. So there's been a lot of that petty and violent crimes. So interestingly, there is actually an organization that looks into their safety. So they're not as disorganized as we think. There is actually an organization that looks into their safety. There's even a chairperson. They're very sort of organized when it comes to that. But they, and they're trying to reduce excessive conduct when there's been an accident between a border and another vehicle. On the other hand, the border guys say they're mistreated by the police. They are not treated well, and so they now go to the other side and they act very excessively. But that needs to stop, and this is one of the things this organization is trying to stop. But of course, our concerns grow in terms of these people we are entrusting with our letters, our documents to move from point A to B, our shopping, maybe even for some people, the children, picking them from school and bringing them home, or something as important as that. These people, how do we know that they are not they're not going to take advantage of the trust of the customers? How do we know, that this is not going to happen? So the organization itself needs to do something to regain and rebuild the trust of Kenyans, to use them.
Meanwhile, details have emerged that the slain lawyer Charlo Bobo was not only facing multiple court battles, but was also drowning in debt.
That's right, KTN investigations reveal a trail of unpaid loans, withheld client funds, and court judgments that paint a picture of a man cornered on all sides.
As Haman Kamariki now reports, the late lawyer had been blacklisted by banks and had resorted to borrowing from Shylocks and credit companies.
The late lawyer had been blacklisted by banks and had resorted to borrowing from Shylocks and credit companies. In most cases, the interest on the loans acquired by lawyer Bobo Shallow were loans to 10 times the principal amount.
Okay, guys. So basically, this is what's happening now. People are asking questions like, so really, why would he borrow so much money from a Shylock That's number one. People who lend money to people who cannot qualify for bank loans. I think he had been apparently blacklisted. This is according to what we're hearing now about it. And then other people are asking, what is this got to do anyway with this case, with the fact that he lost his life? Why are they bringing out the fact that he had these loans? I guess it's because maybe Susan can explain it. Maybe they're looking for the motive for the crime. And again, they're also saying that some of these Shylocks should be dealt with seriously, because how can you borrow 10 million and within 10 months you owe 70 million? How is that? And then for some people, they're supporting the Shylocks, and they're supporting those money lenders and saying a deal is a deal. Apparently, they're saying that he took advantage of his position as a lawyer. He may have taken advantage of his position as a lawyer to take the Shylock around the legal system, because he knew that what he was doing was illegal. Yeah. So apparently, there was somebody who was expressing that perhaps these Shylocks were saying, sisi hatufanyangu hivi, we are not dealt with in this way. We are not the bank. You can't deal with us like this. We know we may not be as educated as you are, or maybe they are. Yeah, but we're not going to allow you to play this game with us. But the question again is, why do they have to bring up this issue of the loans that he owes? Susan, please help us.
That is one of a very unfortunate thing for them to disclose, because there are so many people who have passed away, and they have the same sort of, if it's true, let's say if it's true, because we still need it still needs to be established whether or not that is true. So people die with debt. We know that's the reality. People die with debt. So many people have died with lots of debt, perhaps even more than the figures we're hearing about here. And like somebody is saying, what does that got to do with him being unalived? Why does it need to be talked about? And I think the unfortunate thing is that this is a man who's a family man, and perhaps even his wife and children and even his relatives knew nothing about these things, and yet the journalists have found it fit to start writing about things like that. And this is a grieving family. This is a grieving family. And I think as journalists, they need to check what is really relevant, what really makes sense. This rush to be the first person to tell the news, to talk about stuff, it needs to be checked. It needs to be checked. For instance, what will they say if at the end of the day, all these things that they have alleged are proven to be established to be either somebody has deliberately manipulated information to paint a picture that's going to, as a red herring, to distract us from the real issues. What are they going to say? Are they going to print an apology? How are they going to deal with the grief and pain that they have caused the family? You can imagine how terrified perhaps his widow is, and even his children. Let's say he passed away at, say, about 62 or 63 years old. So his children are likely to be adults. And them knowing that these issues of outstanding debt needs to be dealt with one way or the other by his estate. Can you imagine that, being told, all that private issue? I think sometimes you need to think about, do these personal things need to be shared with the whole world? And once it's printed, it's printed. Once it's said, it cannot be unsaid. To it. There are certain things you cannot consent to.
Susan, are you saying that people who take Shylock loans can actually be absolved by the law?
But they know they're operating outside the law, and they know they can only get a certain amount of interest.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe this is. But again, they were also asking, what's the point of a person who is dead? Even if he owes you that money, at least allow him to pay you that money.
Yeah, that's the other thing that doesn't make sense.
Like you said, the issue is not even beyond that. Yeah. I'm trying to see if perhaps if I put my headphones on, people hear me clearly.
Yeah, we can hear
and
you.
You won't get an echo.
Are you getting an echo?
No, I just feel like I can't hardly hear you very well.
Oh, you can't hear me very well.
No, I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is there an echo?
Hello?
Hello.
I can hear you.
Is there an...
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me
No,
just. Yeah. So. Yeah. So I think some of these things are those personal issues and stuff like that. We should really wait for them to be established before we talk about some things. I think it's really unfortunate.
Men who are busy killing their wives. Because recently there's been a spate of that happening in Kenya. That some Kenyan men have been unaliving their spouses. Yeah, for silly things like, you came home late, I set a rule, you should come home by 6 o'clock, you came at 6:05, I'm going to take your life. A young woman just recently lost her life that way. And in her dying breath, she said in front of the house help who saved the baby, you should have allowed me to raise my child. Those were the last words that she spoke to this man who unalived her husband, who unalived her for coming home late. Late is at 6 o'clock, okay? At 6:15 instead of 6 o'clock. Fear is saying it's a lack of, I saw people rejoicing online. There's somebody who said about the men issue, who is going to, if all men are driven by emotion, if men are being driven by emotion to take action against women, who is going to protect society? There has been generally an understanding that men are supposed to sit and consult themselves first. Yeah, there's this thing about restraint. People no longer have any restraint now. This thing of no holds barred, I think that's one of the issues, And as for fear saying, I saw people rejoicing online, Charlie Kirk. Yes, I saw that. And the reasons that people were rejoicing online because of his unalivement, which was so gruesome. Really, I mean, they shot an artery and the blood spewed out. And he just dropped right there. Something just horrible, The reasons that they're saying is because apparently he was considered to be anti-Semitic, anti-black, anti-the vulnerable, anti the Gazans, But whatever your political position, do you deserve to die like that? Again, also he had said in his own words that people do not deserve empathy. He had said it in a previous speech. But does that mean that because he said it, we react the same? We have to remember he had children and he has a wife there. Yeah, and he has family. So I don't think many people are happy that he died. But the fact is that they say that he basically karma kind of thing. Like his position was so openly intolerant that apparently he got back, according to them, he got back what he deserved. And on top of that, the thing that was even more worrisome was that I believe the governor of, I think it was Utah, where he was killed, he had said that he hopes that he's not one of them, that he's not one of the Republicans. And the killer actually happens to be a young man, who happens to be one of their own. And the African Americans and black people and colored people were saying, what were they going to do? Were they hoping that it was going to be a colored person, a person of color, who actually unalived him? Is this what they were hoping? And this is the reason why many people were rejoicing that it wasn't one of them, because it would have been a big backlash against the black and the brown community in America if this case had happened. So still, it just is not palatable to the majority of the world. It would not be a palatable thing to see somebody getting alived as they're speaking. I mean, is this the norm now? Is this where we're going now? And meanwhile, right here next door in Goma, we lose so many lives. Up to 50, up to 60 lives. 60, we're talking about one guy, Charlie Kirk. We have 60 people who were unalived in a terror attack on 7th and 8th. It is hardly in the news. It's not even being reported. Right now, the people of Goma are crying. And those people had gone to attend a funeral. They had gone, these were mourners. They were mourning. Imagine you're going to mourn one of your loved ones, and then you're also unalived right there by a terrorist group related to ISIS. Yeah? So this is terrible. And this is also following the fact that they had unalived another 50. It's as if the lives of Africans, the life of one person in America, is worth millions of lives in Africa, because those people don't get airtime, they don't get media time. And this is what we are here for. We are here to elevate that, to remind everybody that we have lost people in Goma. We're talking about Kenya. Let's also remember other countries.
Yeah, for sure. It's not something that can be taken lightly at all. I was listening to a video about Charlie Kirk, somebody, and they were saying that one of the things that he advocated for was the importance of dialogue and bringing people with divergent views together in one space and get them talking and keep talking, because the effect of not talking is a world that would be difficult to live in, and that's what he understood Charlie Kirk to represent. That he was not afraid to have his views and to express them, but he wanted other people who had different views to come and for them to have that conversation, and the importance of dialogue was something that he was pushing. And this particular video I was watching was saying that, interestingly, although there's that narrative that he was favored by the right, he was saying that actually the truth of it was that there are people from all over, different walks of life, who appreciated maybe some of the values that he was upholding. So, and like what we're saying is that your views should never be a cause for someone to feel entitled to unalive you. It is wrong. That is something that that it is not acceptable at all. There are ways of dealing with disputes. There's a way of dealing with something, and that's why with when you don't agree with people, or when they make you unhappy, or whatever it is, but unaliving somebody, taking somebody's life, is not an option. In fact, I was listening to a security person, and he was saying that he was talking directly and saying I'm talking to the people who did this. You better surrender. Go to the cops and surrender, because whoever sent you to do that will be after you next. The safest place for you to be is in jail. There the police will be looking and taking care of you. You'll be protected in jail, as opposed to being out there, because whoever sent you is looking for you, is going to look for you next. So, he was speaking that way, and whoever does this sort of thing, they pay a price which they can't even imagine. So, for instance, the Charlie Kirk assassin is somebody who's a young man, a university fellow. That's it. If he's convicted, that's it. He's messed up his life. And even his roommate, who gave information which helped the police to pinpoint that actually the person who had done this was this particular character. So we know that all of us have a role to play when it comes to keeping each other safe. Security is our problem. It is not the policeman's problem or the security agent's problem. It is our problem. And we should first secure ourselves, first. And some of the things are like ethical standards. So when we're talking about the border guys, are they vetted sufficiently? I know they get these, what do you call them, certificate of what? Of good conduct. Do they get them from the police, or are they just given by rote? Nobody's checking for sure whether or not they have good conduct and stuff like that. Is there some pre-training that they go through that will enable them to know, apart from the road rules, which we know the border guys are just a menace on the road. They are the most terrifying people to deal with when you're a driver. They can come toward you on a highway at very high speed with passengers, pillion and everything. They're really scary guys. So what training do they get before? And apart from that, should they not go through, apart from the road safety, they should be, and getting a license and insuring their motorcycles, there should be some ethical standards that they're held to. So for instance, how do you respond to when an accident? Do you gang up and start, doing whatever it is? Remember the case of the lady who was, her clothes were torn, were ripped off by the border fellows. That was such a sad case. That was criminal behavior. Are they aware that they are committing criminal offenses? This particular organization that is looking at their safety was talking about getting into an MOU with lawyers to provide free legal services. We know that these border guys, because of the way they ride their motorcycles, in fact, I'm not sure whether it's still the case, but there were many hospitals which dedicated whole wings to people who have been injured as a result of being on top of riding on borders. And yet we know in a country such as Kenya and other countries in Africa and perhaps Asia, they're such a crucial part of the transport network. They're so essential. So when we're talking about security, some of these things need to be looked at, and ensuring that they have the standards, they are maintaining these standards. The ideas they're coming up with on regulation to put them in uniforms by region, I don't know whether that is to ensure that you can spot straight away that this person is from Naivasha, or this person is from Westlands, or this person is on this side, or this person is on that other side. I don't know what that is about. That putting them in uniforms and saying stages will be manned by a chairperson and making them register to operate in certain areas. Again, I'm not so sure. The border guys, basically, I don't know whether they have the same sort of mapping system as the matatus, or even or whether they operate more like cabs and you just all over the city. You're not just only in one part or whatever it is. So insecurity continues to be a concern, and like I said, it is all our problem. It's not just one person's problem.
Yes, and on that note, we want to say thank you so much to the two people who are watching us live today. Let us know your experience. You can go into the comment section. I've seen Fia has given us her experience. I was a little bit concerned about the echo, and I think as the conversation continued, I think the echo issues improved. I think this is a new platform with us, and so I guess it will improve as time goes. So just be patient with us. Meanwhile, let's invite people to come onto the show and to participate, because of course it's better obviously when you guys are participating. Have a lovely week ahead, and thank you for staying with us. Thank you and good night. Thank you, Suzanne. Stay safe. Thank you, Fia.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks to Fia. Bye-bye.